Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of the Daily Night. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and this is a recruiting podcast describing why it's important for UCF to recruit underclassmen, and specifically in the greater Orlando area, Pokelando, state of Orlando, for Florida recruiting. Anything that you can think of that comes out of Gus Malzahn's mouth talking about recruiting, it's probably going to start with the greater Orlando area, meaning about a 100-mile radius around the city. It's vital. They need to really hit that. And he knows it, and they've done it. The school that is going to be featured here with the player is Osceola. It's in Kissimmee, just south of Orlando. The school it's playing against is just north of Orlando, in Seminole High School in Sanford. UCF has recruited from both programs since Gus has been on campus at UCF. They have a commitment in John Walker from Osceola. They got 3 players to sign from Seminole last year. In short, both teams always have players. It's nothing new. The player being watched today, and I'm going to share the screen in a minute, is Taevion Swint. He's a running back. He is a sophomore. He's already one of the best players in the greater Orlando area. And it'll help put in perspective just how much talent is in the Orlando area when a kid like this can do well. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get right into it. But keep in mind with this, this is not your average young man. This is a player that is pretty much going to go wherever he wants to go and make an impact somewhere. He's that talented. He's that gifted. And quite frankly, I just think the world of him as a kid for his age. He's pretty humble too. This Taevion going left, kid thought he had him dead to rights, barely made contact, outruns the rest of the defense. Again, this is Seminole. This is a program that has players that go to college on a yearly basis, 3 of which, ironically enough, went to UCF that are freshmen right now. Also, keep in mind, this is a team that was 0 for 8 on third downs in this game, even with Swint, and only had 25 yards passing, including a touchdown with Swint that he caught. So it puts it into perspective just how talented he really is and what he can do. I don't think there's very much that people will disagree with when I say speed is not a problem, making moves is not a problem, power is not a problem. Taevion Swint is a legit prospect. He's already been to UCF's campus a couple of times, and he's the kind of guy that Gus Malzahn and his staff really want to bring in. And for a bonus for fans, it's kind of cool that Swint, like so many other of these other kids that come in, you know, it's neat when you can read about them in the local paper or what have you. It's not the same when a kid comes in from out of state. It's great to still get good players, don't get me wrong, but it's cool to have the local kid as well. UCF is no different with that, and Gus Malzahn is trying to make that a habit. I would expect 6-8 kids a year, conservatively, to come from this area. And I'm not saying that UCF is going to be the only team that is capable of doing that. But at the same time, I would expect UCF to be one of the few that can really run their program based on just local recruiting. Miami did it back in the 80s and 90s. Like half their recruiting classes were within 150 miles of campus. And that even includes like going over occasionally, getting a kid from like Naples or Fort Myers. Probably out of that 50%, all but like one of them really were from the greater Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, and maybe a Palm Beach kid. UCF can kind of do that as well. They come over here to where I live in Tampa, get a kid, then they maybe grab 1 or 2 more kids, and you know, maybe North Florida, Jacksonville, like they got a tight end last year at Jacksonville, get 1 or 2 kids from South Florida, get 7-8 kids right in the middle of the state, Tampa to Cocoa. Then you're in business. You're in business. The other thing that UCF needs to do is just cultivate, like I mentioned, with the younger kids. It's that simple. A lot of people don't realize, though, and this is why I did this specific podcast, you have to start really, really early. Again, Swint's been on campus that I know of a couple of times. I'm going to see him play tonight. Osceola plays at Lakeland. Lakeland has Gerlins, Noel. He's a really good player that everybody is learning more about, but UCF's been on him for a while. He's a D tackle, a kid I'm going to check out They got Dadrian Zipper. They've got Cormani McLean, which is as good a player as there is in the country. He's got like 40 offers. They got Tyler Williams, etc. And then they're going against Osceola, who's got John Walker, who's committed to UCF. They got Derek LeBlanc going to Oklahoma. They got Jackson, who's going to Florida. It's going to be a great game. But in the midst of that, in the midst of it is Taevion. He's a kid that I'm very curious about because he's now in a situation where he could be the kind of the focal point again. And they didn't even have a third down conversion, had 25 yards passing, and he caught like the pass. And that was it when they played against Sanford Seminole. So everybody in the stadium knows who's getting the ball. And I can assure you, I've been to like 4 Lakeland practices since spring. They got speed everywhere. There is nowhere to hide. It's on the road. The teams are kind of in sync now. It's game 3, game 4, depending on if you want to count the introductory game that a lot of these teams had, the jamborees. This game is about as good as it's going to get in the country for talent on both sides, just raw physical skill. And we're going to see what Swint, Walker, etc., everybody can do. And he's going to have to try to outrun somebody like Cormani at some point in the game. I don't know if he can do that or not. Cormani's 2 years older and he can fly. But that's why you go and play the games, and it's fun. And I'll be there taking photos and videos and stuff and checking it out. So anyway, to kind of wrap this up, the last point that I want to make is this. UCF is doing well with recruiting in the class of 23. I've established that, and so have every other site that covers UCF. But the long-term future, I think, is brighter. And one of the reasons for it is how they've laid the foundation of recruiting underclassmen. If you are not constantly involved with these kids, with their coaches, their parents, etc., somebody else is. Somebody else is. It's like being a salesman. If you're trying to sell something and you only do it half-heartedly, it's not going to end well. So just wanted to kind of mention that. And for the people that haven't really learned how recruiting works in today's world, this is the basic line for you. If you're not recruiting right now, you're behind because somebody else is. Every second, every day. There are no days off, period. 365, you are recruiting. So with that, please check out Inside the Nights on Fan Nation. I'm going to be doing some more of these, probably do them on Fridays and Saturdays. I might have something in the morning with regards to the Kissimmee Osceola game on my YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. But YouTube would be the best option for the actual video. Obviously, it's the only real option. If you're going to watch them, you're going to see some kids that can really run. It's a lot of fun to cover Florida high school recruiting and just see the players do what they do. It's bird's eye view from the sideline is awesome. I enjoy getting paid to do it, and I'm looking forward to it. So everybody have a safe weekend. FAU is hosting UCF. Ought to be some fun there. And we'll see what we can do in terms of some game coverage on Saturday night and into Sunday morning as well. Everybody be safe. Take care.